Hello everyone, welcome back to Programmer, the show where we sit down with everyday programmers to talk about how they think, work and build. I'm your host Nazib, and today we are exploring a big question: what does mobile development demand looks like in 2026? Before we dive in, let me quickly share about Postku.my. If you are a Malaysian freelancer or running a micro business, it's a free invoicing tool that keeps all your client billing neatly in one place. For 2026, with annual revenue under 1 million ringgit, you are exempt from LHDN invoicing, and Postku.my is built to take full advantage of that. It keeps things simple so you can focus more on your business. Joining me today is Franklin Oladipo, Senior Software Developer at BT Group. Franklin, thanks for joining me. How's your days going?
Oh, my day is going great. Thank you for having me, Nazib.
To start, could you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into mobile development?
I basically started my tech career, I think, around 2017, 2018, right? I was writing a little bit of HTML and CSS then for web, and then I suddenly discovered that the whole world is moving to mobile. Mobile phones are springing up, lots of apps are coming up on mobile, and I decided to plug into the market. If that's the case, I guess I'll be able to reach more people very fast, right, if I know how to build apps. So I decided to learn how to build mobile apps. Then I was doing native Android. I was writing mobile apps, Kotlin and Java. Then around 2019, 2020, someone reached out to me and wanted to build an iOS app, but I did not know how to write iOS language like Objective-C and Swift. So I was thinking to myself, okay, do I have to learn another language for this? But luckily, a friend of mine told me about Flutter. He has been using Flutter for a while now. He just writes one code and it runs on Android and iOS. And then I thought, oh yeah, that's really cool. I don't have to like a separate language for iOS. That this will actually benefit me if I can just write the code once and to run on both operating system. I started learning Flutter around 2019, 2020. Since then, I've been hooked with it. I've been working full time with it, and even till now, and I'm loving it.
Alright, in your career, do you mainly work on Android, iOS, or both these days? Because you are saying that you are doing Flutter a lot these days. Are you supporting both, or basically you just did Flutter but actually mostly release the app on Android?
It's actually both. For the project that I'm working on right now, yeah, it's actually both. I release it to the Android Play Store and Apple App Store. So it's actually both, yeah. I test my apps on both. I run the Android on Android Simulator, and I run the iOS app on iOS Simulator, and I have both an Android and iOS phone.
When you are getting into a senior role, right, as a senior software developer, are you still doing hands-on coding, or your role has shifted more towards like architecture, mentoring, or probably management?
It's actually both. I still write code. Apart from that, I also kind of help to delegate tasks to other teammates, because be very involved in the refinement session for a particular feature that we want to build. Ask questions, think about the architecture and how the feature can fit into our code well. I still do all that.
Dart and Flutter is an open platform, right? Have you created your own library? Do you contribute to any open source that might related to mobile development?
So I actually contributed to the Dart code itself. Yeah, I've actually contributed to the Dart code itself, to the Dart engine. I've created my own package. It's called REST Countries Data Package, basically to help people get information about the countries that they need. So the list of countries, the capital, states, anything, the geographic location, the landmass. So anything about any country in the world, you can easily just use my package and get the information and use it in your own mobile app.
Alright, related to this package, do it include the country code for the phone calling? Because I think that is the most common utilities that developer might need.
Yes.
Let's go into Geek Section. There's a few questions that engineers like to ask other engineers what it's about, right? The first one would be, what is your daily driver right now? Is it Mac OS, Linux, or probably Windows?
macOS.
Is it safe for me to assume that you have both iOS and also Android phones?
Yes, I do. I had to buy them. I'm a mobile developer.
Between Android and iOS, what is your main driver? Is it the iPhone or is it the Android phone?
iOS.
What IDE or editor do you use most for mobile development? I heard that there is an Xcode for iOS app, and we have Android Studio for Kotlin and Java. I think Flutter also can. Previously, when I do Dart and Flutter, I use VS Code because it is possible to actually build the APK and then just running a command line, right, to produce a AAB or APK. So what is your choice of IDE and editor for mobile development?
This might sound strange, but I've never really been comfortable with VS Code. I don't know why. I've always been using Android Studio. I guess because I started with building native Android apps, we use Android Studio. So even when I switched to Flutter and I saw that, okay, I can do the same thing in Android Studio. I can write Flutter that code. So I just talked to Android Studio. So I'm very familiar with it. Yeah, so that's what I use. Yeah. And for my Xcode, I think I open Xcode when I want to release the app to Apple App Store, right? Yeah, for a bunch of signing and signing into my Apple account, and building and archiving the app to be released to Apple App Store. So that's when I use Xcode. But apart from that, I use Android Studio.
So if you are building a new app from scratch today, right, what tech stack or language would you naturally reach for? Like probably Kotlin, Java, Flutter, or do you want to explore something new like Swift or Objective-C?
If I'm building a new app today, I think I'll still use Flutter because I'm very fast with it. Right, it's my first framework. I'm very fast with it. Yeah, but recently I've been thinking of exploring React Native, just wanting to see what it's all about. Yeah, but if I want to quickly cook up an MVP, yeah.
We go to the last question in the Geek section, which is outside of coding or work hour, what do you enjoy doing as a hobby?
I watch tennis. I play tennis virtually on my PS5 console, and I also play tennis in real life. So I'm a tennis freak.
When you play virtually, do you play on console or is a PC? Because I think Mac is not really suitable for gaming, right?
Yeah, I play on console. It's actually PS5. And funny enough, my favorite tennis player, Alcaraz, is even playing this night by 8 p.m.
Alright, so that is for the Geek section. Now we go into our main topic. Let's get us into it, which is how is the mobile development demand in 2026? I think previously there is a hype about super apps or the everything app, but I think these super apps and everything app more suitable to the Asian country. I think WeChat, Grab, Touch and Go is doing good, while Meta, PayPal, X, Google Plus failed to do this before, probably because of the cultural misalignment and regulatory hurdles. Like it's difficult for big company to actually have a big market share, and then it's prone to anti-competitive legal kind of strike. So what do you think about demand in 2026 and the hype of super apps nowadays?
Oh yeah, mobile development is in super demand, right? Because first of all, in fact, new phones are being released every year. If you watch people like MKBHD, right, it's always reviewing a new phone, whether it's Android, Google Pixel, iPhone, the Nothing phone, Nexus. They are always released. So a lot of our lives right now is in our mobile phones, right? The popular thing that we use on a day-to-day basis, our fintech apps to transact with money, to send and receive money, our messaging apps, WhatsApp, everything, right? So the phone is now kind of, as Elon Musk would say, an extra limb for us humans, right now. So it's now part of us. Yeah. So of course it's in super demand, and the app ecosystem are always growing, although there are two main dominators, which is Apple and Android, right? But yeah, there is thousands and thousands and millions of apps there, and people can easily just download anyone that wants. Yeah. Then for the super app, I think around 2022 I actually worked on a super app, and it was pretty good, pretty fun, pretty complex, but I really enjoyed it. So a super app is actually very, very immersive, right? Because you don't actually leave the app. Everything that you want there, whether it is messaging, fintech, social, e-commerce, and they're all connected. So it's actually great, to be honest. But in the West, I don't know how a super app can succeed, because for each of these individual services that I've mentioned right now, the transportation, the food, the e-commerce, the social, they are already individual big giants, right? They kind of have like a monopoly, right? So before you try to build your own e-commerce fintech, and you have to be strong in those individual spaces, right? That means you have to compete with the big boys, right? So it's actually very tricky. I mean, Elon Musk, I'm talking about this super app for like, I don't know, for a couple of years now, and he hasn't yet done it fully, although he's bringing fintech X money to X and all that. But yeah, so it's something that will have to be done with care, and you have to really be smart about it, because you most likely have to go against the giants in the other field. Yeah, but yeah, it's a great idea.
AI first app, I think the term is thrown around nowadays. So whether or not it is an AI first app or is AI as a feature, does it affect the demand on the mobile development? Like AI first or AI native app built around AI as the core experience, focusing on how the user interact with an AI directly rather than treating AI as an afterthought. So what do you think the effects of this AI LLM bubble towards mobile development demand?
Actually, AI, LLM, artificial intelligence, right? The first way to think about it is to bring it as a feature in your app, as if you have an existing app. It's fine to bring it as a feature. So this is the way to think about it, right? But right now, because of the buzz and the hype and the bubble around it, and it's actually very shining, like VCs wants to hear AI in your product. If there's no AI in your product, they'll be like, what the hell are you building in 2026? Right? So that's why people came up with this term AI first app. So when they hear that, okay, that AI first app, they think, okay, everything is just AI from the start to the finish. It's just AI, and it's very shining, and they want to invest in it. So that's why people are talking about that term, right? But ideally, bringing AI into your app is just, you are building a normal mobile application, but you are just making it more intelligent by bringing AI as a feature into your app. Yeah, so that's the way I see it, and that's what will actually last on the long run. So for example, things like, I think in a few years ago, so this thing came up where you can actually, for some apps, you can actually customize how you want the look and feel of the app to be, like the kind of theme that you want, the kind of colors that you even want. Some apps give user ability to actually customize that much. So it's kind of make the app kind of intelligent and kind of personalized to you, right? So that's a feature. So now AI can go a step further, and you can even prompt the AI in a particular app and say, okay, this is my personality, I am this kind of person, right? Make the app personalized to my personality, and it will think of a kind of color theme to use, a kind of font to use, that kind of aligns with the kind of person that you are. So all these things we are just stepping up features, right, inside the app, and I think that's the way it would go.
Let's go into the next topic, which is native versus cross-platform mobile development. So from your experience, how do teams decide between native performance and cross-platform development speed today?
Of course, we all know native will definitely have an edge in terms of the performance. It's talking directly with the operating system, right? And even in terms of the app size, right? It's not really bundling a lot of things. So the app size is, on an average, it will be smaller than that of a cross-platform app. These days, I would say Flutter has matured in such a way that there's no native feature that you want to use that you can't actually make use of from Flutter. There are a lot of packages that interact directly with the native APIs. So for common things that you want to do, is it getting device information, maybe like the battery level, getting the device, like the brightness level, or accessing the camera, the video. All those things you can now easily do with Flutter because it has already matured to that extent, right? And for the app sizes, there are a lot of tips and tricks that you can use to make your Flutter app size smaller. Maybe, for example, you don't have to bundle every single image and icons into your Flutter app. You can actually call them right? When you actually load the app and store it in an online storage, there are actually some tips and tricks that you can use to reduce the size. So I would say if a good Flutter developer built an app, you'll probably not be able to distinguish it between native and cross-platform, right? So yeah, it has actually, Flutter is actually mature right now. But of course, Flutter gives us the avenue. If you still want to write native code, you can use things like platform channels.
I think there's a 2 point that I have before, but not sure whether it's still relevant to this day. I think one of them is in order to actually recognize whether or not this is a Flutter app or not, you can use multiple fingers to actually scroll. Because if you use more than 2 or 3 fingers, the scroll speed will be much faster. Is it still the case for Flutter nowadays?
Oh yeah, that has been fixed. I think 2 releases back. Yeah, Flutter has fixed that.
And then I think I remember when the new design system, the Apple design system, is out, right? There's an issue with Flutter that cannot actually apply the new design system because they're actually rendering separately using Skia, if I'm not mistaken, right? Rendering engine. So is that fixed today?
Yeah, right now, yeah. So that was actually a concern when the liquid glass feature came out for iOS, and I think Flutter team to really think about it, and they went with a decision to actually extract the design library from the Flow Cutter engine. So there'll be like a separate team that handles everything about the look and feel of Flutter apps on different operating systems. Right. So there's a separate team that is now maintaining that. If a new feature comes in, right, it's very easy for us to just isolate the design part of Flutter in quotes and just work on the new feature without actually touching Flutter engine. I guess Apple releasing the liquid glass made the Flutter team to rethink how they undo designs on both platforms. Yeah.
You mentioned about Flutter apps, native apps, because previously when I did consider whether or not to go native or Flutter, because I have done both, I start with Android development using Java and then move to Kotlin and then move into Flutter and Dart. I think there's a lot of things that I need to consider. For example, the price or the fee to actually create these apps, right? So I think Flutter is much, I would say, cheaper compared to the native development because with one code base, you actually can support both. While native, you need to have a dedicated person to actually support Android and iOS. Is it still the same, or actually Flutter and Dart have a higher demand and also have a higher salary range? What do you think about this?
We talk about this a lot, and my answer is it depends. Different companies, okay, so companies right now, they are seeing the benefit of moving into cross-platform, which will actually cut costs for them, right? And to be honest, it actually depends on the company that you are applying for. There's a company that will be willing to pay, right, more than others, right? And it depends on the kind of salary that you negotiate. I don't want to say, so there's not really a standard that, okay, native devs are paid more than cross-platform devs. No. A lot of companies are now seeing the lights and they are migrating to cross-platform. So of course they'll actually pay more. In fact, I had a recruiter tell me last year that, Franklin, Flutter developers are so scarce in the UK, right? I don't know why he says it. I'm surrounded by Flutter devs, probably because I'm in the environment or something. But yeah, so he said if you find it hard to find a good Flutter dev. So imagine that kind of recruiter getting a good Flutter dev. They'll be willing to pay the kind of money that the Flutter dev asks for, right? Yeah, the more valuable and the more competent you are, the more money you will earn. And I think you should actually look at it that way, instead of looking at it as, okay, how much one stack enemy, I'm telling you, there are some UI UX designers that earn more than even front-end developers, for example, right? So it depends on how valuable you are, and it has little or nothing to do with the stack.
I think that's a great input, because sometimes when people only focus on what they should learn in order to get a higher salary, they only focus about the technology instead of how valuable the person are to the company. So we have a few frameworks or tech stack in regards with native and cross-platform. I think I've tried most of them except Xcode for iOS development. Previously, I did Android Studio using both Kotlin and Java. I've done Cordova with JavaScript, Capacitor with JavaScript, React Native with JavaScript, Tauri with JavaScript and Rust, Flutter with Dart, that kind of thing. Another one for native, I used Xamarin before. I have a question. So when we talk about Android Studio using Kotlin with Kotlin multi-platform, right, KMP, and Flutter Dart, why do you choose to go to Flutter and Dart instead of using Kotlin for both iOS as well with KMP?
Yeah, I mean, it would mean that I have to spend more time building mobile apps if I have to write Kotlin for Android and Swift UI and Objective-C for iOS. Okay, so even with Flutter, to be honest, right, there's sometimes that you must also write the code in such a way that it looks like an Android app on an Android phone and an iOS app on an iOS phone, right? So we must write the code that way. But it's just easier when all the code are kind of in one place. All you just need to do is to write an if statement. If platform dot is iOS, return this kind of iOS widget, or if platform dot is Android, return this kind of Android widget. If they were in separate code bases, right, and separate IDs, it will be much harder to do.
When you're building mobile apps, right, in regards whether native or cross-platform, how was the architecture? Would that be the same for both a native or cross-platform, or is basically just the same way when you design architecture to support this kind of a mobile dev?
Yeah, so the architecture that I use is right now is platform agnostic. It doesn't have to do with native or iOS. In fact, it doesn't even have to do with mobile or web. It's just kind of like a foundational architecture that we can use to build software apps, and it's called Clean Architecture. I know most people will be familiar with it. It's created by Uncle Bob. The main gist of Clean Architecture is just separation of concerns, right? All your layers should be properly separated and guided. So that's the main gist of it. So if I'm building a new mobile app today, that's what I would actually follow. And thank God for AI. Right, I can easily just prompt Claude Code, okay, just give me the skeleton. This is the kind of app that I want to do. Let me create the folders and separate them into their own layers, right? So yeah.
How does the AI works for you? Is it like helpful, or you find it like stressful? Because I think I can do better than the AI do. What are your thoughts?
So I'm trying not to be heavily dependent on AI. The way I try to use it is that when I want to do something, I go ahead to think of the problem and the solution myself, right? And then I write it down. And then I ask the AI, if you wanted to do it, how would you do it? And then I compare our solutions to each other, because I don't want to be too heavily dependent on AI. Because if I am, when AI is not there, or when my Claude subscription resets and I have to wait for an hour, I won't be able to do anything, right? So yeah, I think last week I was doing something with Claude Code, and then I was in the middle of it and it reset and it told me that it will be back in 1 hour, and I didn't know how to proceed. So I just had to wait for 1 hour. I tell you, okay, come and finish what you started, please. Yeah. So it's crazy. Actually, I try to at least think about this problem myself and the solution, and then I prompt AI to help me, okay, what do you think about this? And I go with the one that is most optimal, whether it's mine or the one that Claude generated.
From what I gather from my peers, AI is useful when you actually know what you are doing. There's a disagreement or defensiveness when you talk about the agentic workflow, where you just pass the coding part of the mobile development, for example, right? totally to an AI. Basically, what you were saying just now is not too highly dependent on AI just because they have a token limitation or they have like, how do I say, traffic. If a high volume or high traffic period of time, you might getting a slower response kind of thing.
Yeah, please don't be dependent on AI. Don't be too dependent on it. You're still a software engineer. Your business is to build software apps. Every other thing should just be like tools that will help you do that faster. You shouldn't use them as tools that will help you not work at all. But you should also get in there, get your hands dirty, but they should help you do something faster, like probably like repetitive tasks. For example, JSON serialization to JSON and from JSON. And also these things are kind of like manual, so that you can offload it to AI. But when it comes to business logic, right, even if you prompt AI, at least first of all think about it yourself.
We go back to architecture a bit before we end the meeting, right? I would think differently because regardless of whether or not it's native and cross-platform, they do have effect on the architecture. For example, especially on Flutter, that because it supports cross-platform, it doesn't really support mobile development. It can also produce a desktop application and also the web, if I'm not mistaken. The question I have is that how often do companies, or based on your experience, company want to actually export the app as a web?
I have some clients reach out to me and they said they want a web app and also a mobile app. Usually the request I get is to, because I'm first a mobile developer, so they're always okay, come and build the mobile app for us. Then if they tell me that they want a web app, I can then say, okay, no problem. I can do that with Flutter Web, right? So when it comes to freelancing on a client project, sometimes they don't really care about the technology that you use. They just want to see it get done. So I think developers should just use the tool that they know how to do best, right? But for companies, I think companies actually, for established companies, they would rather go with a proper front-end framework like maybe React or Vue, right? And just use Flutter for mobile. Yeah.
All right, that's all for today. Before we wrap up, where should people to find you online, Franklin? Anything you want to plug or mention?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Franklin Oladipo, on Twitter at Frank Droid. So that's Frank, then Droid from Android. So that's Frank Droid 77. So on Twitter, Frank Droid 77. On LinkedIn, Franklin Oladipo. On Instagram too, Franklin Oladipo.
All right. Do you have any upcoming meetups or community that the people can find you, join you?
Oh yeah, of course. So I run 2 meetups here in the UK, Flutter Birmingham. So we host physical Flutter events every 3 months. I think we had one just last 2 weeks. The next one will come in like 2 or 3 months. But we are having one before then, which is an online event. So I'll post that on my LinkedIn, right? Then the second meetup I run is GGG Stock on Trent, Google Developer Group Stock on Trent. We're actually having one meetup next month, and the team is built with AI. So yeah, if you want to attend, of course, I'll also be posting the registration link on my LinkedIn. I have access to communities, and also if you want to plug yourself into a community space, please reach out to me, send me a DM on Twitter or LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to help.
Yep, that's great. Yep, a big thanks to you, Franklin, for the conversation. It's very helpful, very insightful. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show and share it with someone who will get value from it. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.